Hi, I'm Scott Postma for Kepler Education, and in this practicum, I'd like to discuss the importance of rhetoric by sharing an interesting story about our muse and patron educator, Johannes Kepler. Those familiar with the name Johannes Kepler probably know him best by his magnum opus, Hermeneus Mundi, published in 1619. What many are probably unaware of, however, is that just a few years earlier, in 1615, Johannes Kepler's mother, Katrina, was caught up in the witch hunt hysteria sweeping Europe during the 17th century, and she was accused of being a witch. The lawsuit against her carried on until about 1620, and during this time, Kepler's work was hindered and periodically interrupted as he traveled back and forth between Linz and Leonberg to hire lawyers and manage his mother's trial. Things eventually escalated when Katrina was arrested and threatened with torture by a notorious witch-hunting judge named Lathyrus Einhorn, who hoped to coerce a confession. Katrina Kepler's arrest was no small ordeal. Scholars estimate that during the 17th century, some 50,000 people were tortured and many of them burned alive, all due to exaggerated accounts and countless accusations raised against people for practicing witchcraft. Extant records indicate that during Einhorn's magistracy, 15 local women had been accused of practicing witchcraft, and 8 of which were executed. At 68 years old, Katrina Kepler was shackled and chained to the prison floor for what would become a 14-month imprisonment. Upon learning of his mother's arrest, Johannes Kepler immediately moved his family to Leonberg and took over the trial to defend his mother's innocence. And there he prepared a handwritten, exhaustive, 128-page legal brief for her defense. Ulinka Rublek, who's a professor of early modern history and fellow of St. John's College in Cambridge, described his defense as a rhetorical masterpiece in which Kepler explained away magical illnesses with his knowledge of medicine and common sense. With the help of Johannes's rhetorical skills in 1621, Katrina Kepler was acquitted and released from prison, ending most of the witch hunt hysteria, at least in her hometown. The Keplers did file a wrongful imprisonment suit, but unfortunately the hardship took a toll on Katrina's life and she passed away 6 months later. Less than a century later, when Isaac Newton was asked about his own accomplishments, he claimed he could see as far as he did because he was standing on the shoulders of giants like Johannes Kepler. Today, we have our own versions of the early modern witch trials. With the rise of social media, Machiavellian politics, and wanton democratic opinions, the art of rhetoric is as necessary and essential today as it ever has been. Modern sophists are working overtime to make the worse seem the better cause, and Christian young people need to be equipped to recognize fallacious arguments, challenge falsehoods, defend the faith, and proclaim the truth of things as they stand with both wisdom and eloquence. So what is rhetoric? Aristotle defined it as the art of learning every possible means of persuasion. The early Roman orator Cicero said the purpose of rhetoric was to move, to instruct, and to delight one's audience. And the later Roman orator Quintilian defined rhetoric as a good man, well practiced in the art of speaking. The various schools of thought have over the years influenced the understanding of the art of rhetoric to some extent. And though all these definitions require further clarification, they each describe some important aspect of what it means to be a masterful rhetorician, to be a good person who can speak the truth well and persuasively, a speaker who can move and instruct his audience in the most delightful manner possible. Johannes Kepler understood the value of the relationship between faith and right reason, but he was a giant because he could also defend the truth wisely and eloquently in the face of superstition and sophistry. Like Johannes Kepler, Christians should strive to be giants, not only in faith and science, but also in the art of rhetoric.